Hi, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are doing well. At this time of recording, Jamaica is having a really rainy weekend. We were supposed to have like a tropical storm, but it changed its mind about visiting us. So we're just chilling with a little razzle dazzle rain. So yeah, hope you guys are doing good. Yeah, so let's just get started with this video. Alright, so the last video that I did, we were talking a bit about ways that you can boost your mental well-being, and I shared 4 with you. So for this video I'm gonna share 4 more, but before that, 1, make sure that if you haven't watched the last one, pause this video, go back, watch that one, and then come back. All right, and then 2, the last video I mentioned dopamine overload, and I thought it would be really cool if I just explained a bit further what that was. So of course, trusty notebook. Yeah. All right, so dopamine overload. So first of all, dopamine is a major neurotransmitter that plays a role in mood, sleep, learning, memory, focus, and motor control, bodily movement, right? And it is in charge of your brain's pleasure reward system. So whatever makes you feel good, dopamine is in charge of that. Cool. And as human beings, as you know, people, creatures of sorry, my throat, social creatures and all that, we need just the right amount of dopamine to get that feel good, right? If you don't have a lot of dopamine, you tend to feel unmotivated, joyless, unhappy, da da da. But if you have too much dopamine, a dopamine overload, you become aggressive, you become uncooperative, you become a little risky and less empathetic, right? So, and dopamine, it plays a very destructive role in addictions. And I want to pause right here because you realize that the name is dopamine. What that sound like to you? Comment below what that sound like to you. I'll wait. If you said dope, yes. And oftentimes dope is what we use, or what people use to talk about like drugs or addictive substances, right? So it's not just a random word. It actually has a connection with the thing that is responsible for the kind of high and the excitement and the pleasure that you feel, right? So when you do natural things that give you pleasure, things like eating, making money, having sex, those raise your dopamine levels a little over 50% from your baseline, and that's pretty high, right? However, when you do very addictive things, or you take part, or you partake rather, in addictive substances, like for example, you guys know addictive substances, you guys know, right? So I don't know how you two will feel about me saying some of them, so let me just play my cards right. Girl is new to this, okay? But yeah, when you take part in these activities or partake in these substances, those bring your dopamine levels to well over 200%, well over a threshold. It brings your dopamine level to an unnaturally high level, and that's dangerous because your dopamine receptors are very fragile. So it's not good for them to be constantly bombarded and at that intensity. You know, it can cause damage or overstimulation, which can essentially kill them. Yeah. So with like, again, addictive activities, and we know how addictive substances are, but with addictive activities, stuff like gambling, excessive shopping, excessive sugar intake, which a lot of us are guilty of, myself included, send help. Cell phone usage or internet, social media usage, thrill seeking, constantly engaging in these activities for an unhealthy amount of time. Over time, it just elevates the use of your dopamine receptors, and sometimes when it gets to that point where it cannot take much more bombardment, it goes through a process. Your receptors go through a process called down regulation. What is down regulation? Down regulation is when your receptors, the process by which your receptors become less responsive, and there's a decrease in the number of them that are on your target cells in your brain. You can do some more research on it if you want more, like a deeper explanation. You know, YouTube is your friend, Google is your friend. But this is just like a basic, you know, the brain 101, right? So the good news is your receptors, your dopamine receptors, know how to come down from that high. The bad news is the more you engage in these addictive practices and you get to that threshold where you have to go through down regulation, the more you need to engage in said activities in order to get to, quote unquote, that high. Again, what does this sound like? This sounds like an addiction, because that is pretty much, I'm sorry for shaking this, but that's pretty much what the process of addiction is. You engage in an activity or you take a substance, it gets you feeling good, and you know, your dopamine receptors are on an all-time high, operating at 100, and you're just going until you crash, aka down regulation. When you come out to the crash, you have that craving for that activity or that substance again, and you gotta go, but then you realize that you need to do a bit more in order to experience that high again. And that is the vicious cycle of addiction. That's the vicious cycle of dopamine overload. I hope that wasn't too much information. You guys can like pause, process it. If you want to look online somewhere else for more information on it, go right ahead. I encourage you to just do more research, do more reading on anything I say here, because I'm learning as I go along and I'm just passing information on to you. All right, so how can you deal with dopamine overload, or you know, how can you deal with dopamine overload? And I mentioned it last week. In one way, I said, you know, as it pertains to social media, you can unplug, but generally you can do dopamine fasting. And what is that? Is taking breaks from the things you're addicted to, plain and simple. So just like how last week or the last video I said that you would need to take breaks every once in a while from social media, dopamine fast is pretty much the same thing, but it applies to all addictive activities that you engage in. And one way that you can do this is, and here's a recommended schedule I got from the website bebrainfit.com, so you can check that out as well. And it's the dopamine fast is something that is a trend in Silicon Valley, California. And what they do is they abstain from technology, social media, stuff that they're addicted to. And the schedule I mentioned, it goes like this. So at the end of the day, they take like a 1 to 4 hour break from social media or whatever it is. They take 1 weekend day per week offline, away from whatever they're addicted to, 1 weekend per quarter, and during that time you can take like a short trip, whether it's going to visit family out of town, whatever the case may be. And then of course 1 week per year, your vacation time, you just unplug, unwind, da da da. So that's 10 minutes worth of talking about dopamine overload. But I hope that makes sense. I hope that, you know, what I mentioned last week is a bit clearer now. And yeah, we're going to get into the final 4 tips that I have to share with you this time around on how you can boost your mental health. So number 5, and I'm continuing from the last video. So number 5 is to get good sleep. Sleep is important, and I know that a lot of us really struggle with getting a good sleep schedule together. You know, life is very demanding. You know, we have our 9 to 5. And if you have a 9 to 5 and a business, you have that to do as well. If you have kids, then you gotta take care of your kids and make sure they're okay. Sometimes you forget about yourself. And then sometimes some of us just really have a hard time sleeping for many reasons. But it's really important to have a good sleep schedule. There is a very close connection with sleep, the quality of sleep, and mental health. I'm gonna do a video on that one day. Let me just yeah, I'm gonna do a video about sleep and mental health, because I don't think a lot of us realize just how much poor quality sleep affects our mental capacity and our mental wellness. So I would say, guys, get your 8 hours. Where you're going to sleep for 6 hours through the night, and then throughout the day you take a little 30 nap here, 30 minutes nap here, or a nap there, another 30 when you're coming home on the bus. Get your 8 hours, get your rest, settle your mind, you know. When you're sleeping, your brain does a lot of repair work, and that's very necessary. I remember in high school, I don't remember what class it was, but a teacher was talking about that, like when you sleep, there's a lot of like toxic, you know what, let me pause right there. I'm gonna do my research and we're gonna talk about sleep and mental health. Cool? Cool. So yeah, sleep, right? Number 6, surround yourself with good people. Sounds simple, and it is. Surround yourself with, you know, good friends, good family, people who care about you, people who have your best interests at heart, people who encourage you, people who, you know, speak life into you, people who support you. And I mean, not everybody that you meet in life will fall in that category, and that's okay. But if you can find 1 or 2 people in your circle who fit that bill, hang on to them, and also be that for them, because you don't want to just be taking all the benevolence from people and not giving it back. You know what I mean? So surround yourself with good people and be good people. Cool. Number 7, set realistic expectations. Set realistic goals. That's not it. So what I mean by this is, sometimes we're ambitious people, right? And sometimes we may set some goals, whether it's like educational goals, career goals, business goals, financial goals, blah blah blah. And we set some grandiose goals with some kind of far out timelines, and when we realize that we're unable to meet those expectations that we've set for ourselves, we experience like a downer, we experience great disappointment. Now, I'm not telling you to not have your grandiose goals. I'm not telling you to not set those high goals, because baby, set those goals, right? So for example, if you have a goal of, let's say you're in a company and you are currently like an administrator, and you say, okay, in the next year I want to be the manager of my department, but you don't have the right qualifications, you don't have the right experience, you probably aren't doing the work to prove that you can even move up from being an administrator to maybe like a particular officer, like a corporate officer in the company. You have to be realistic. The timeline has to be realistic, and also you have to look at what you have right now that can help you to meet that goal. So instead of saying, all right, in a year I'm going to be a manager, and just leave it like that, you can think, okay, in a year I'm going to work my way up the organization. I'm going to go from administrator to corporate officer. What do I need? I need to get my degree. I need to start at least the process of getting my degree. Maybe you are in the process, so you know, so you need to like work hard in school, get your grades up, blah blah blah. Maybe you need some certifications. Some programs are a year, 6 months, 3 months. Look into those programs and put the work in there. Maybe in the organization you need to have certain knowledge of how the company operates. Start talking to people, connecting with the right people, being in the right circles, networking. And you do these small things that can work your way up to corporate officer, then whatever else come after that, then maybe be considered for manager. So I'm not saying that it's impossible for you to move from like admin to manager. Like, incredible things happen every day, but I'm saying set realistic goals, set realistic expectations, so that you can take things in stride, and also not disappoint yourself for not hitting those really 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 high targets. When you set your goals, make sub goals so that it's easy to just climb. I saw someone post on their Instagram the other day that small steps are better than giant leaps or something like that, and it's true. It makes sense. So make sure you do that. Cool. And the last thing that I will share with you, as I bring this little two-part series to a close, it's get help where needed. I will always be an advocate for getting good help. I mean, what I do in my own business is help other people with their mental wellness. So if it gets to a point where you know you've done all the things and you're still not where you think you need to be mentally, reach out to somebody for help. Reach out to counselors, therapists, psychiatrists. If we need basic mental health aid, you can reach out to a mental health coach like myself, and just get the support that you need, that you probably can't provide or do for yourself, right? So yeah, these are all my tips for promoting or boosting mental wellness so far. And of course, there'll be more that I'll have to share with you in the future. But for now, I hope that these help. And again, let me know if there's anything else that you do for yourself that helps you with your mental wellness. All right, so I thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, leave a comment, and of course subscribe, join the family, so we can continue supporting each other, learning and growing. All right, so take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.